Okay, good morning and namaste to all of you. Let's do the prayers before we start our class. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhuvaswaha, Tatsavitra Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat, Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya, Om Sehna Bhavatu, Sehna Bhunaktu, Saviryam Karvavahi, तेजस्वी नावधीतमस्तु मां विद्वेषावहि ओम शांति 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 ओम Prashnopanishad, and we are on the first chapter where Rishi Piplad is answering his one of his students, the Shishya's question, and question was, where are the creatures born? How did this creation happen? So he's trying to tell us a little bit more detail about that. So we ended the class, last week's class, on verse number 9. So let's start with the 10 today. He says, Ath utren tapsaha brahmacharyen shraddhya vidyaha atmaman vishyaha dityam abhijiyantehe etatve pranayam yatnam tad amritam bhayam etat paraha तस्मान पुनर आवृंत इत्येष निरोध तो देश श्लोकः अथ means again. Tapsaha, austerity. Brahmacharyen, the control of our senses. Brahmacharya. Shraddha, by faith. Vidya, by knowledge. Atmanam, the self, Atma. Panyavishya, having sought. And Uttarain. See, Ath Uttarain. Uttarain means the upper part, the northern part, or the path of the north, Uttarain. Adityam, the sun, Abhijyante, attain. Etat ve, etat means this means this sun. Ve means verily. Prananam, all the prans, the vital forces. Ayatnam, source, or the abode. Etat means this, amritam, immortal or imperishable. Abhyam, free from fear or danger. Abhyam. Etat means this, prayanam, supreme resort. Etasmat, from this, punha, again, na avartate, do not return. Iti means thus, esha means this, and this means this path of the north, the upper path. Nirodha, the restriction or the end. Tat, the same. Esha, this, shlokaha, verse. But those who have sought the Atma by penance, austerities, brahmacharya, supreme control, faith, and knowledge, gain the sun traveling through the northern route. This is the goal of all living creatures. The immortal the fearless. This is the highest goal. From there, they do not return. For this is the end. For this, there is a mantra. Okay, and we've been talking about that this Upanishad is a Brahman Upanishad. So it's supported by the mantras also. Mantra from the Vedas, the Rig Veda in this case. So over here, he is talking about the Ishtam, because in the last verse, he was talking about the Purtam. Two kinds of actions. Purtam actions could be nice, noble acts, kindness, charity. Welfare of the society. But still, if you have some kind of a desires, you do all that because you want your name and fame. You have certain subtle desires in your mind. He says you'll come back. That is the southern path. Right now over here, he's talking about the Ishtam. So this Rishi is trying to point out to us the path that is taken by such people who have lived their life performing this kind of actions. So Ishtam is that group of noble acts which are undertaken by a person of renunciation, vairagya, and discrimination, vivek. A person who has no more charm or attraction for the matter, this worldly matter, which is called Rai in this Prashnopanishad's language. This kind of a seeker is seeking nothing but the self. And the seeker is pursuing the path pointed out by the Upanishads. So after their death also, after leaving this body also, they identify with the sun, traveling the northern route. Crossing the sun, they reach Brahmalok. From Brahmalok, there is no return. This is called a progressive liberation, Krama Mukti. Rishi Patanjali in Yog Darshan talks about it in detail. Krama Mukti. And this Rishi is saying that these are not my original contribution. That's why he says, I'm going to quote a Vedic verse to show how the idea has been expounded by other Vedic seers in the Mantra Upanishads. So this is what we're going to look at in verse number 11, a verse from Rig Veda. Panchapadam Pitram Dwadash Akritim Div Ahu Pare Ardhe Purishi Nam Athe Mehe Anye Upare Vichakshanam Sapta Chakre Shathar Ahur Arpitam Iti. Panchapadam, with 5 feet. Dwadash Akritim, 12 forms. Pitram, father. Diva, of the sky. Pare, above. Arthe, half. Purishinam, giving rain. Purishinam. Purish means excretion. So what does it give? The rain. Ahu, they say. Ath, again. Pare anye, others. Ime, these means these sages. Vichakshanam, the seer. the sun. Sapt Chakre, the 7 wheels. Shadre, on 6th, spoked. That means the chariot. Arpitam, placed. Iti means thus, Ahu means say. The sages say that the Lord of Rain, the Father, having 5 feet and 12 forms, is seated in a place higher than the atmosphere. Pare. Others call him the All-Wise, the one upon whom, like a chariot drawn by 7 horses, running on a wheel with 6 spokes, the whole world is founded. So as promised in the last verse, Rishi Pipalad is quoting here a Rig Veda mantra. Glorification of the sun god. Earlier we saw him telling us that Lord of time, sun. In this mantra, the first half of the mantra gives us a beautiful picture of the objectified as a benevolent Lord. This sacred Lord is sitting, occupying a place above the atmosphere, having 5 limbs for his locomotion. What are these? The 5 seasons. Even though in India we generally accept 6 seasons. But over here, the Hemant and the Shishir are together. 2 wintry seasons. Okay, so 5 seasons. So 5 seasons are the 5 feet of the Lord of time. So it's like a 5-footed benevolent master moving along on the roof of this world. And we know that how slowly, how steadily, from season to season, this is changing. So Lord of time is described. And then he says the Lord of time is having 12 different forms. And what are these 12? 12 months. 12 months of the year. So it's a glorification of the Lord Sun, who being the Lord of time is described as a giver of rain also. How he's a giver of rain? If the sun doesn't shine, then there won't be any vapors from the ocean. And if there are no vapors, there's no rain, no clouds. So credit goes to sun. So the Vedas, they say that this is the way in which the sun, the Lord of time, has been described by seers also. Other saintly people, wise people, they glorify the sun in so many different styles. So that's why the first line, he is glorifying sun like that. But according to another version, the second line, he says, 7 horses, meaning the 7 colors of sunlight. 7 horses. So sunlight is constituted of 7 colors. It was familiar back then also. That's why they are using a metaphor of 7. And chariot is described as moving on one wheel, having 6 spokes, meaning 6 seasons over here. So in the first line, 5 seasons, in the second line, 6 seasons. Different seers, they describe it little differently, but the same thing. So to consider the seasons as the spokes on the wheel of the chariot of time is supremely appropriate. Sounds very present also. Because as a wheel move, its spokes should necessarily move, one after the other. And that's what we see. The winter, the spring, the summer, the fall, all those seasons, they just come very beautifully, one after the other. So the first line of the mantra with the 5 feet, 12 forms, the giver of the rain, etc. And the second line, he says, he rides a chariot drawn by 7 horses, moving on a wheel with 6 spokes, etc. So the object indicated by both descriptions is one and the same. That means the sun. Whatever be the guns, the guni is one and the same. That's what we see over here. The guni, the sun is the same. Now let's look at the next one. Verse number 12. Masah ve prajapati tasye Krishna paksh evrei shuklaha pranaha tasmat ete rishyah shukal ishtam kurvantir itra asmin. Masa, the month. Ve means verily. Prajapati, the lord of the creatures. Tasya, it's Krishna pakshaha, the dark fortnight. Ev means only. Ray means matter. You all know that now. Shukal, the bright. It's like a bright fortnight. Shukal paksh. Pranaha prana, tasmat, therefore. Ete, these. Rishya, the rishis. Shukrehe, in the bright fortnight. Shukle. Ishtam, sacrifices. Kurvanti, perform. Itre, others. Itrasmin, in the other. Like in the dark fortnight also. So the month is Prajapati, the creator. Its dark half is indeed Ray, the matter. Its bright half, the prana, the energy. Therefore, these great rishis perform sacrifice in the bright half of the month. But others perform them in the dark half. So far, Rishi Pipalad has been describing stage by stage how the entire creation had started with the creator, the Prajapati. First of all, himself became the sun and the moon. We saw that. And sun and the moon, representative of energy and matter. And by a combination of them, we have the concept of the year. Okay. Then he talked about the path of the sun and the path of the moon. Now Rishi Pipalad is going one step further. He's saying that the month, which is a division of the year, Maso, is also nothing but Prajapati, the month. And the month has 2 parts. Okay, bright and the dark. Again, he's just taking our mind towards this, that out of a piece of silver, if a goldsmith makes a long, thick rod, the rod is nothing other than the silver. And if that rod is again drawn into yards of wire, wire is nothing but the silver. And the wire is cut into pieces and made the jewelry. Jewelry is nothing but the silver, whether they are the rings or the necklace or the earrings. So similarly, here the creator becomes the sun and the moon. The conception of the year arises. Now over here, the idea of the month. So if it were also be nothing other than the creator, there must be the sun aspect and the moon aspect in it. And this is what's indicated over here in this mantra. During the dark fortnight, we have the inactive matter aspect. And in the bright fortnight, the active sun aspect. And those who perform great sacrifices do so during the bright fortnight, hoping to gain a greater efficacy and even efficiencies in their activities. Because that part of the night is under the direct influence of the energy. Shukla Paksha. And when he says others, others meaning those who have find no distinction between the dark and the bright fortnight. Because people who realize that they are both aspects of the same entity, they keep on creating the sacrifices in the dark fortnight also. So whether it's a dark fortnight or bright fortnight, keep on doing your tapasya. They both are part of the same Prajapati. So all rituals performed without desires, which is called a Nishkam Karam, purely as a training for self-integration, as a pure dedication to the Lord, can be undertaken even in the dark fortnight. So that means that do not have your mind that no, this day is better, this time is better, this time is more auspicious. So the wise people, they don't put those kind of restrictions on themselves. Every direction is, there's a God in every direction. And every moment is auspicious, you can just connect with him. Because the dark fortnight is also created by him. See the implication over here? That we should keep on doing the tapasya also, have a faith also, and have the total control on our senses, brahmacharya also. Then let's look at next one. Aho ratro ve prajapati tasya hi erev pranoh ratrirev rai pranam va ete prasakadanti ye divaratyah samyujante brahmacharyam ev tad yad ratroh ratya samyujante. Aho ratra, day and night. Where means surely, Prajapati, creator. Tasya, it's aha. Aha means day. Ev means indeed. Pranaha, pran, energy. Ratri, night. Ev means verily. Ray means matter. Yehu, diva, by day. Ratya, in sexual intercourse. Some yujyante, combine. Pranam, pran, va, assuredly, ete, these, prasakadanti, dissipate. Ratro, in night. Yat means when. Ratya, in sexual intercourse. Some yujyante are united. Tat means that. Brahmacharya control. Ev means indeed. Okay, so ultimately, offsprings, they come out from the intercourse. So that's why this Rishi is mentioning that over here. So a full 24-hour day is again the Prajapati, of which the daytime is the energy aspect and the nighttime the matter aspect. Those who united in love in the day, therefore, waste their energy, while those who unite in love in the night are to be considered very brahmachari. So he is putting some kind of a little discipline over here, because these young Kumars, they are going to become the householders, further produce the children. So that's why he's telling them what kind of a disciplined life you should have. We all know that the The day is the unit of measure in the concept of the month, just as the month is a division of the year. So that's why he is bringing it down from a year to the month to the day now. So 24 hours a day is also the creator, the Prajapati. And then there is a moon and the sun over there too, Rai and the Prana. The daytime is the energy aspect and the nighttime is the matter aspect. So he is addressing to these young pupils who will live a grist life. So he is giving a psychological factor which must these students, they will experience it. It's like a conjugal relationships during the daytime. It's known that that can exhaust the partners much more than when they do that act at night. So day is pran, the night is matter, and mating at night is relatively brahmacharya itself. So by this statement, this Rishi Piplad, he's not diluting the brahmacharya, but he is telling them how to behave in order to procreate also. So creation will happen further with the help of a man and a woman. So less harmful period of time, mating at night, relatively healthier condition of the behavior. This is what he's mentioning. Okay, so for a householder, this is brahmacharya. For the rishis, brahmacharya is different. There's a different definition for brahmacharya for a householder and for the renunciates. Okay, so this is only a relatively true statement, not the absolute brahmacharya. Remember that. So in which context he is telling us. You remember the original question was, where are these creatures born? That was the question. So that's why now when he reached over here, he's giving this kind of instruction. He first said matter and energy are the two fundamental principles of creation. Next, he said the various expressions and functions in general of matter and energy. Then he spoke of the two paths, material and the spiritual, Purtam and the Ishtam. Next, he digressed in giving the description of the minor subdivisions, the year and the month and the day also. So now he is giving the reply directly. He's basically saying from the seed, the creatures are born. That's what we'll see in the next verse. Direct answer to the question which was asked. But he just created a little background for all of this. He said, Anve Prajapati Tatahahave Tadrat Tasmat Ima Prajaha Prajyant Iti. Annam. Annam is food. Ve means verily. Prajapati. So he says even the An is Prajapati. Tataha, from that. Tat means that. Retaha. Reta means, the literal meaning of Reta means semen. So that's the seed. Jayate, produced. Tasmat, from that. Ima, these praja creatures, prajayante, are born. Iti means thus. Food is indeed Prajapati. From that indeed proceeds the seed fluid in man. From that all these creatures are born. Food which we eat is so important. Normally we eat the food only for our taste buds. But food is indeed Prajapati too. So through all the stages through which Prajapati himself has seemingly passed and changed to become a pluralistic world. Prajapati is one, but it just became multiplied himself. Just like I said earlier, he became matter and energy. He became time, changed himself into the various conceptual denominations, year, month, day, all of that is Prajapati. And now this matter ripens to become fruit and the food for us. Living creatures eat the food, and from the essence of the food, we all know that food affects our mind, food affects our body, but the essence of the food, the seed is becoming. Seeds of the species are generated. From the seeds, the fresh generation rises up. So that's why this Rishi Piplad is concluding here that all these creatures are born. All these creatures are born from the seed. Okay, so direct answer to that question which that young disciple asked. And it's very significant here to note that the day, which is nothing but Prajapati, produces food, and so food is also Prajapati. Okay, food produces the seeds. Naturally, they're nothing but the Prajapati. That's also Brahma, the creator. And when it causes the creation of the next generation, each newborn is again nothing but Prajapati. So that's why, though the great Rishi has given us a airtight and convincing logic over here to show us how the creator of the world has come to be, when the whole picture is brought to our understanding, we find that the master has not deviated away from the original logic, even by an iota, which is the eternal truth. So creation is but a delusion of the mind, and there is nothing that has really risen up from the eternal reality, actually. So food is indeed Prajapati, from that indeed proceeds the seed fluid in man, and from that all these creatures are born. Let's look at number 15 now. What else he is telling us? Tadei ha ve tat prajapatim vratam charanti te mithunam utpadayante te sham ev esh brahm lokoho ye sham tapoho brahmacharyam yeshu satyam pratishtam. Tat means that, ye means those. And again, tat means that. So, Prajapati Vratam, that's a rule of Prajapati. Charanti, observe. Te means they. Mithunam. Mithunam over here means a pair. Utpadyanti, produce. Ye sham, of those. Tapaha, penance. Brahmacharya, Brahmacharya, the control, sense control. Yeshu, in whom. Satyam, truth. Pratishtham, established. Te sham, there. Ev means verily. Esha, this. Brahmaloka, the heaven of Brahma. Thus, therefore, those who observe this rule of Prajapati produce a pair. For then alone is the Brahmaloka in whom penance, celibacy, and truth abide. So as a householder, we are given the instruction to do the mating at night, have offspring. And over here clearly he says a pair, boy and a girl. That's what this Rishi is saying. But make sure that you have a healthy moral habits, self-controlled living and self-expanding meditations. He says, even as a Grihasti, you can attain Brahmaloka. So in other words, this Brahma Vidya, the path of the upper, it's not just only for the sannyasis, it's for the Grihastis also. But we have to make sure that we are practicing tap also, we are practicing brahmacharya also, we are practicing faith also. All these three which has been talking about. Happy social and economic scheme of living was given by our rishis. With this kind of a scheme of living, heaven can be brought down into this world. But only if we live in brahmacharya, tap, satya, truthfulness, satya also. And contributing our little share, helping the society, helping the joy in the society, and not adding deliberately to the social sorrows through overbreeding. That's the why he said, a pair. And it was written thousands of years ago. Let's look at the last verse of this chapter. Tesham asau virjoho brahmalok na yeshuhu jihman amrite na maya cha iti. Yeshu. Tesham. Tesham means there. Yeshu means in whom. Asau, that. Virjaha, pure. See, Raj. Raj means Rajsikta. Viraj means pure. Brahmaloka, the world of Brahm, or that pure where we are supposed to go, the highest. No means not. Yeshu, in whom. Jihan, deceit. Anritam, falsehood. No means not. Maya. Maya is like a guile. Cha means and, iti means thus. He says the pure Brahmalok belongs to them only in whom there is no deceit or the dissimulation. So that means the scripture is declaring here that evolution can be progressive only in those people who have given up all the negativities in them. This is what it means. No falsehood, no deceit, no negativity. So deceit, falsehood, and dissimulation. Okay. What is a deceit? Deceit is a declaration of the physical cowards in the individual person. Because the mind is crooked, and crookedness of the mind is ugliness, and you want to deceive somebody. because we want to gain for ourselves at the cost of others. That's a deceit. Deceit includes falsehood. And falsehood impoverishes us. We really cannot move higher. We just feel whenever we have spoken even a little lie, we know how we feel. So that's why he's saying the pure lok, Brahm lok belongs to them only in whom there is no deceit, no falsehood. But we think that if we are honest, it will ruin our business. Over here, we got to look at it. What is our goal? Is it to have a fat bank account? More and more Ray? Or we want to move towards the Pran? To tell a lie is to express differently from what you actually feel. That's a lie. That's why the truth has to be same, harmony between the words also, the thoughts also. That is the truth. So definition of truthfulness, we got to keep in mind, speaking words which are entirely in consonance with what we are thinking. Both in its import and suggestiveness. Remember that. To think in one way and to express it differently would be a lie. So he's telling us very clearly, if we want to reach the Brahmlok, no deceit, no falsehood, no lie. Sometimes we wonder why there is so much emphasis in every religion about truthfulness. Every religion, every faith. We got to think about it closely, examine it. Reflect in our own mind. When we tell a lie, what is really happening in our own mind? With our own energy. We all know to tell one lie. In order to cover that, we'll have to lie several times. Every time we have lied. Sometimes we think we are lying just to protect somebody. But lie is a lie. And that stops us. That becomes a hurdle. That becomes an obstacle on the path to Brahmaloka. We got to make sure that we don't want to weaken our mental power. We got to live efficiently. So combining the previous Brahman along with this, we have a perfect scheme of living for our spiritual progress. Regular meditation, intelligent self-control, spirit of truthfulness, and avoidance of crooked falsehood and hypocrisy are sure to take any spiritual seeker stage by stage, step by step on this ladder of evolution. So we have to do our part. We cannot just sit over here and ask for the blessings, ask for the grace. Grace and the blessing is always there. Just like a sunlight is for everybody. Rains falls on everybody. The same way grace and blessings are for everybody, but we have to do our part. So in this chapter, while he's telling this young student where everything has come up, again, this is what the great yogis do. Small question, but he has given a beautiful, elaborate answer. So regular meditation, intelligent self-control, that is a brahmacharya, and that's what he was telling, intelligent. Spirit of truthfulness and avoidance of crookedness, falsehood, and hypocrisy. So we got to see, we have to judge ourselves. Are we living a life according to this? Because goal is the same for all of us. There's no different goals. Got to become one with Brahm, where there's no return. So this should be our life. So this is the end of this chapter. So next week we'll see that the second question is asked by the second disciple. And what is that question? We'll see next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much for coming.